Originality. So let's say you've come up with a little idea, maybe a tune, and you're thinking, oh, it's not very original. Is it going to work? Well, I'd say maybe that is not actually a problem. It's what you do with that idea that is going to really count. So I spoke to lots of amazing musicians about this, and I asked them whether they'd ever used other people's ideas as a springboard, really unoriginal ideas for their own music.
Yes, I have. And I think that's a really great thing to be able to do in composition, is take something and then change it into something else, as long as it's not too overtly the thing that we're listening. Yeah, and as long as it's not a rip-off.
Everybody does. I mean, you know, I know Tom used to as a songwriter. Like everybody takes bits and, you know, and it's how you reinterpret them. And you don't want to rip people off, but that's a part of, everybody's always done that. Like there are chunks, there are blocks, there are harmonies, there are things. We all beg, borrow and steal.
Particularly in the writing process, like just don't worry about plagiarism or anything like that. Don't think, oh, I might get a lawsuit for this, because you can always, like if it leads to something good, you can always come back and take out the thing that's creating the copyright issue. I think if it inspires you, if it gets you going, run with it and then worry about the kind of practical stuff later.
I think there's nothing, is there anything really, really, really unique without, I can't think of. Yeah.
Not much, no. It's usually just the way that things are reconstituted and the vibe with which they're reconstituted.
Yeah.
When I was about 14 years old, my parents had a record player. So I found Gil Scott-Heron and a song called Did You Hear What They Said? And it was about the Vietnam War that resonated with me. From that time, I knew that what I wanted to do was take this element that was contained in this record and apply it to a hip-hop beat and rap about something that somehow coincided with it. That has been somewhat a prototype of the way I've approached making songs. I've found an element that I would like to build upon and stand on the shoulder of that giant in a way.
I've been listening to, I can't remember which trio, it might have been an Ornette Coleman trio, and I took what the bassist improvised during his solo and changed it into a bass line for one of my tunes, so sort of sampled it. So I have done that for a few things, really, just listened to something that I like, taken it and then changed it into something else.
There's a track on my new record where I was really influenced by bossa nova, classical bossa nova, descending, you know, chords. And bossa nova used a lot of diminished and sevenths, major sevenths and stuff like that. And I didn't have the where-how, but I tuned the guitar in a certain way. And I wasn't like, I want to rip this off, but I started playing and I played the guitar to an open E and it was just like, oh, that's great, I just move it. Oh, that sounds a bit like, yeah, so yeah, I think everybody does.
And if you really wanted, you could just listen to your favourite song, steal the chords, and write something new over the top, so long as you weren't too influenced by the song itself.
One of the things I really like about popular music is that it makes very surprising things from very commonplace materials.
If you take a song like Kiss by Prince, they're exactly the same chords as any blues song that would have been written, you know, in 1925. But what he's done is taken those unoriginal things and created a completely original spin on that song. If you don't know it, look it up. Or another Prince song, Purple Rain, that uses 4 chords which have been used. Those 4 chords, exactly the same chords as, for example, Every Breath You Take by The Police, which is also used in a song called Missing You by Puff Daddy, and literally hundreds, thousands of songs from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, right now. Everyone's using this chord sequence. Hundreds of songs. So something incredibly unoriginal, the chord sequence, can be a gateway to something completely original.
These basic chords, which jazz people despise with a passion because they're so commonplace. I love the fact that pop music keeps coming up with new ways of using them. It's a little bit like cooking, you know, bread is only, what, flour, water and salt, and oil, if you're lucky. Yeah. But all over the world, people think of new and fabulous ways of using those ingredients.
It's fine to be humble, you know, and know when you're listening to one of your favourite artists' work that maybe you're not at that stage yet. That's okay, but it's good to treat it as an opportunity of learning rather than worrying that you're copying them. It's a hurdle that you can actually get over by actually really studying their work, and then after a while you go, yeah, okay, I now understand what they're doing. I can move on and absorb all those lessons into your own work.
I was listening to Duke Ellington's Blues in Orbit, and I just transcribed it by ear, just to try and understand. But another way was looking at sheets that I was given at Conservatoire of, oh, here's how to arrange horns, and then just experimenting with it. So it's a mixture, really. But when I'm writing, I think it tends to be a lot just relying on ear, or things I've heard. So I would have listened to musicians I love, composers I love, remember or hear in my head what they've done, and then try and put that in my own work.
I'm very aware and of not copying that particular person, but to sort of understand, why do I like this musician, and how can I learn from this musician? I
think it's a really good thing to just train your technique, writing technique, listening skills and everything like that, is just taking what you like and putting it into your own work so you can understand how it all fits together.
And actually, here's the other thing. I realised that sometimes when I'm, in that creative, that intuitive phase, like I'm in a place with my guitars, again, my feeling has been like, oh, nothing's really happened. Oh, I really fancy learning how to play that song. And I've had that before. You learn and you tune a certain way, and then you go, oh, and then you go off and you find something else. So yeah, that's really important.
Is using a conventional structure like a song form, like verse, chorus, middle eight, verse, chorus, something like that, is that a freeing or a constraining thing?
I find it freeing.
Yes, I feel that pretty, constraining.
I feel neither strongly for or against them. I think that I love all kinds of music. So again, when the song comes about, if it needs that kind of structure, A, B, C, A, B, or whatever, then I'll do it. But I couldn't do all music like that.
Having a structure there of some sort and knowing, right, at least being able to define your task to some degree, even though it's still incredibly broad, saying it's got to last about 3 minutes and it's got to fit one of these structures is just really useful because you know the medium that you're using to try and communicate whatever you're trying to communicate, or try and do whatever you're trying to do. Move people in the way you want to move them.
I like that there is a structure there for you if you want to use it. But again, I like to kind of break down some of those things. And maybe that's why I'm so drawn to the world of, film and TV composing.
I played in bands as a keyboard player, and that really, I got used to seeing how different singer-songwriters worked. And I feel the song form is at the heart of what we do. So verse, bridge, chorus, middle eight, verse. I got used to working in those ways, and it's a wonderful journey, but it's also fun to then play with that form. Basically, music is, it is A, B, A, or A, B, C, D. And so it's trying, and sometimes you can disguise the forms of things. I'm always trying to get out my head of the composer and trying to be the listener. It's almost impossible to do, but, those simple forms work very well.
So you're not limited to just the one structure, and often you've got to work out what's the best structure for this song. And then there's working out, do we want to start with the chorus? Like, do we want the impact point to hit immediately? Or do we want it to be more of a build?
I understand the importance of learning about structures. You know, it's a good starting point. It's a good lesson to learn, but then take it, you know, in your own way. So yeah, I mean, some of the songs I've written, I don't tend to write verse, chorus, verse, whatever. Sometimes there'll just be one verse and maybe a sort of chorus and then something totally different.
So lots of different opinions there on conventional structures. But I'd say, especially if your head's spinning with the possibilities, you know, you're unable to focus, that's the time when conventional structures can be really, really useful, because there's something that you can hang on to. You know, oh, I'm writing an R&B song, or I'm writing a piece that sort of proliferates like a Baroque piece. That's a really, really safe place to be. And once that's set, you can be as creative as you like within that frame.
So there's just already so many things to customize and think about that I'm grateful for the fact that song structures exist. And I think it's one of those things that is actually quite fundamentally good. For whatever reason, it works really well, whether that's kind of cultural or psychological, I don't know. But it works, and it just makes...
There's enough inventing to do without inventing
there's enough
the song.
to do, yeah, exactly.
So yes, you can concentrate on writing a piece of music and being creative in that space, not inventing a whole new genre of music. You know, maybe one day you will invent a genre of music, but it's not something that anyone does every day. You know, there's a reason why someone like James Brown or Mozart, why they were so prolific, is because they had a sort of formula for the kind of work that they were doing, and then they just explored it in tons of different ways. So they're able to produce tons and tons of music. So there you go, there's some thoughts about originality. Basically, it's something to not be afraid of, to have elements of history, of other people's music, which you're inevitably going to bring with you, and then you're going to put your spin on those things. Not everything that you do in any particular piece is going to be original, and that's a good thing.